Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining me on my group call today. If you were here last week, then you know we were talking about manuals, and we're going to continue that discussion today. If you weren't here, I'm going to do a little bit of a review so you can catch up a little bit and at least know what we're talking about. But for all of my Join Your Journey program members, last week's call and all of my previous group calls are available in our private YouTube channel. And you also receive an email with a link to that every week as they are posted after. So these calls are always recorded. And if you're in my program, you can go back and watch them later. For you guys that aren't, I'll do a little review today. And of course, you can always ask me questions and have private coaching. You can bring up anything that we talk about in this group call in your private coaching with me. So we're talking about manuals. And basically, a manual is an instruction guide that we have for someone in our lives about how we would like for them to behave so that we can feel happy. It's funny, we really don't realize we have manuals for people in our lives. And the ironic thing is, most of the time, we don't tell people in our lives about our manual. And, but somehow we just expect them to know what we want them to do and to do things a certain way so that we can feel better. I know it's strange, but you can catch yourself applying a manual in your life if you catch yourself thinking or saying someone should do something. They should call you on your birthday or call you every day, or they should show up on time when you meet for lunch. Shoulds are a way of recognizing that you're using a manual in your life. So it seems like it's, I guess, justified to have expectations of people in our lives, but it actually can be damaging when our emotional happiness is directly tied to their behavior in a certain way. We all have manuals that stem from our belief that we would be happier if someone in our life would just change, or if they would just behave a certain way, then we could be happy with them. One of the most powerful things I can teach you in coaching is that this is not true ever. Other people's behavior has no impact on us emotionally until we think about it, interpret it, and choose to give it meaning. No matter what people do, how they act, what they say, we don't have to give other people the power to determine how we feel. I know that can be a mind-blowing thought. And if that seems like a little too much to take, just give it some time and think about it. And the more we talk about it today, I'll give you lots of examples and we'll work through it. And of course, let's talk about it in your one-on-one coaching, because if you can stop applying manuals to the relationships in your life, you can be empowered to just choose to be happy and fulfilled no matter what the other people in your life do. It's awesome. So where we left off last week was talking about how manuals don't always apply to the situation when you are a employer or a parent. Okay. So manuals apply when you're in a relationship with anyone else in your life. But when you are a parent or you are an employer, It's not a manual when you have expectations and consequences for your employees or your children. So those are different situations that wouldn't fall under a manual situation. So I'll explain that a little bit. Um, Setting clear expectations for your children and employees and having clear consequences when they don't meet those expectations is exactly how you should operate as a parent or an employer. There's no reason for you to be emotionally hurt or upset if your child or your employee doesn't behave in the way that you wish they would. You just need to apply clear consequences, and you can still feel love and respect for your employee and definitely for your children in those cases. It's actually the best possible situation when you are a parent and an employer to have consistent, clear expectations and consequences. And you will know if you're having a manual for your child or your employee by the way you respond. If you have an emotional response, you feel hurt or upset or even angry with your children or your employees when they don't respond how you feel like they should, then you're operating from a manual. And it's really not a healthy place for you to be. It's not as clean. It's better if you can operate from an emotionally removed place. And that way you can still express love and appreciation for your children and your employees, no matter what they choose. It doesn't mean you don't impose the proper consequences for their behavior, but you do it from a loving place. It's so much better. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you're a parent and you tell your child that they're expected to make their bed every day and your child doesn't, there will be a consequence. This is appropriate and can help teach your child a habit that you want her to develop. So you wouldn't say, if you don't make your bed, it's going to hurt mommy's feelings, or I will be very sad. When people do function in this way, we call it emotional blackmail. And it's really not a healthy way to manage children or people in general. Let's apply this in a work setting. If you are a manager or an employer and you set clear expectations and provide feedback, if the employees don't honor your request and they don't follow through on what you've asked them to do, then you get to decide whether to let them keep working for you or to put them on some kind of probation or to just let it go. You don't have to be upset about it or have an emotional response in that situation. It's totally up to you, but it's much more empowering when you remove your emotions from the situation. Don't get angry when people don't comply with or do what is expected in this situation. People generally don't like being controlled or forced with an ultimatum. So it's much cleaner and healthier if you just have clear expectations and consequences when you're operating as a parent or an employer. So if you're thinking that this applies to your husband or anyone else in your life, you may be thinking, so are you telling me I shouldn't tell my husband that he should take out the garbage or get home on time or spend more time with the children? Of course, you can make requests of anyone in your life, and especially those people that are closest to you. But the healthy way to respond is not to allow your emotional happiness to depend on whether or not those requests are met. You're just setting yourself up for trouble when you do that. So Sometimes you can feel like you're banging your head up against the wall, and when you're trying to manipulate people to behave in a way so that you feel better. It's really not a healthy place to be. And it creates a spiral of negativity. And that's basically operating from a manual when you try to control other people in your life that way. Let me give you a few more examples. Let's apply it to a situation like in a friendship. Let's say you want your friends to call you once a week or on your birthday. Perhaps that's your friendship manual, right? In most cases, you probably don't share this manual with your friends. It's just an expectation that you have and you feel like is understood. But when your friends don't honor this, you might feel frustrated and let them know that they hurt your feelings by not calling you. This just sets you up for frustration and drama. The alternative is that you have friends, but you allow them to just be who they are. If they want to call you, then they call you. And if they don't call you back when you call them, you don't construe that to mean anything negative about you or about your relationship. You can just love them and enjoy them exactly the way they are. And you won't be operating from a manual for them in this case, which it's actually really freeing and a better way to live in all of the relationships in your life. It's perfectly reasonable to make requests of your friends, your spouse, everyone in your life. But like, I would really like it if you would call me back when I leave you a message. But remember that whether they decide to honor your request or not, it really has nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with them. And you can just choose to love them and enjoy them exactly the way they are. When you let go of your manuals for people and embrace this concept, it sets you up to have more rewarding and enjoyable relationships that are really less full of conflict and more long lasting. You just get to enjoy those people. If a friend decides not to show up when you expected them to, you can let them know, like, I was really bummed when you didn't make it. I wish you were there next time. Or I'd really like it if you'd give me more notice if you're not going to make it. But you can't continue to blame them for how they behaved. It's only going to hurt your relationship with them. And it might mean that you just accept that they're always late or they sometimes don't show up when they say they will going forward in the future. But you can work around that and just let them show up however they like. If being on time is really important to you, that doesn't necessarily mean it's important to other people in your life, your spouse, your friends, or whomever. And it also doesn't mean that they don't respect you or your time. It might just mean that they have a hard time managing their own schedule. So, something that I like to suggest is you could try, if it's someone that's really close to you and it's affecting your life a lot, that they're always late, you could have a conversation with them and say, hey, we're going to meet up at 4:30 on Friday. Since you're usually late, I'm going to hope that you'll make it there by 5. But if you're not there by 5, we're just going to go ahead, have dinner or go out. And I just want to let you know because I love you and I hope you'll make it. But if you're not there by 5, we're just going to go on and have a great night. So that allows you to stay in control of your feelings about your friend or your spouse or your child or whoever it is in your life that tends to run late. And then you have the power to take action based on whatever you want to do. And you don't have to have your feelings hurt. You don't have to be upset. You don't have to try to use some sort of manipulation to get this person to behave in a certain way. You can just choose to love them and accept that sometimes they show up late, Sometimes they don't show up at all. If they make it, great, you get to enjoy the evening with them. If not, you plan to enjoy your evening anyway. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Let's apply this to a situation with your spouse. We all, or most people, can't say all, but most people have a manual for your spouse, your husband or wife, or your significant other. And we have a lot of ideas about how we think they should behave. And it comes from the idea that if they were more like we wanted them to be, then we could somehow be happier as a result. It's important to remember that your happiness comes from you, and it doesn't matter who your spouse is or what they do when it comes to your emotional happiness. Spouses who are comfortable or who are compatible with us are going to make it easier for us to have positive thoughts around them. But it doesn't mean that they have to change in order for that to be true. I want you to think about that for a minute. Okay. Your spouse does not have to change for you to decide to be happy with them. All right. I'm going to give you an example that might be relatable for most everyone. This is an example that Brooke Castillo shared recently. And I think it's something that is really common in marriage. So she says when she was first married, she had this image of how bedtime or nighttime was supposed to be with her husband. She felt like now that they're married, we should go to bed, that they should go to bed together at the same time every night, and that they should both get in bed together and read or cuddle and watch television together. And she thought that that should be their together time. And she said, when I went to bed, I would say, "Hey, Chris, come to bed." But he didn't really want to come to bed. And she made that mean all sorts of things about her and about their relationship. Like maybe he didn't love her enough, or he wished he hadn't married her, or maybe he didn't really care about her, because if he knew how important it was to her, then he would still do it even if he didn't want to. Brooke said she ended up feeling so full of rage and frustration because of this, because of the thought she was having that he didn't love her enough, and that's why he wouldn't do it. She said she was constantly berating him, and sometimes he would reluctantly agree and come to bed, even though he didn't want to, just so she would stop complaining about it and try to avoid her being mad at him about it. So one day she finally asked him why he didn't want to come to bed with her at night and have a cuddle. And he said, "That's the only time I have in my entire day to be by myself and just to relax and unwind. And I like that time." So Brooke said it was like an aha moment for her. Like she finally got it, that from his perspective, it had nothing to do with her. It was just his downtime. And it wasn't that he didn't want to spend time with her. He just wanted some alone time. So recognizing his perspective, you can see that she was making it mean all sorts of things and letting it cause problems in their marriage. And it really was just her manual for him, that if he loved her, he should come to bed at the same time with her and do what she wanted. Sometimes it can be more obvious in other people's situations, but I'm sure we've all had thoughts like this with our spouses at times, that if they really loved us or cared about us, they would do things the way we wanted, right? Those are just painful thoughts that don't help you have closer relationships with the people in your life. So I want to challenge you to start with yourself. Okay. When we release all of the rules and expectations that we have and just listen to the other people in our lives and hear what's going on for them, our relationships with everyone in our lives can change for the better. We can start understanding them from a different perspective that isn't clouded with our own expectations of what they should do. Okay. I want to challenge you guys to think about someone in your life and think about maybe 2 or 3 things that you want that person to do because you think it would make you feel good. All right. Maybe you wish that your husband was more romantic, or it would be awesome if he wrote you love notes or brought you flowers or planned romantic vacations. Maybe you wish that your friends would call you more often or be more available to you, or that your children would call you more often and want to spend more time with you. Maybe you wish they would offer to help you more, to show more interest in your life or what you're doing. Or maybe you wish they would give you more space and not expect so much of you. Whatever it is, once you have someone in mind, I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that you ideally wish this person would do differently. Okay. And then I want you to consider what you would feel if this person voluntarily chose to do what you wanted them to do without you having to ask, just happily did it. Now, remember, all of your feelings come from your thinking. So what would you be thinking if this person behaved the way you wanted them to? If they did all 3 things on your list without you having to ask? Think about how you would feel in that situation. All right. Can you apply those feelings that you would have towards that person, even if they didn't do those things? Even if they didn't write you a love note or bring you flowers or want to call, can you just decide to think those positive thoughts about that person anyway? You can. You can decide that anytime you like. So I want to challenge you guys to do that. You don't have to go around trying to change all of the other people, all the people in your life so that you can feel better. You can just feel better on your own. You can just decide, I'm not going to make my life about the way I believe I'm entitled to be treated. The only thing I'm entitled to is taking care of my own emotional life and my own brain to make sure that I'm thinking thoughts that serve me. If you really want something done, and make sure it's done yourself. That's the best way to make sure that your needs are met. And I want you to ask yourself, if you're not willing to do that, why not? You're really giving all of your power away to other people in your life if you are expecting them to do all the shoulds that you think they should in order for you to be happy. You are entitled to be happy right now. And you can choose to feel those good feelings about the people in your life, regardless of what they do. You can accept that. And that's just the most empowering information I can share with you. It's so exciting. I have another example. We have a few more minutes that I can share with you that might help illustrate this a little better. This is about a client I was working with. We're going to call her Lisa. She was frustrated because she didn't want dog poop in her backyard, but she didn't want to have to clean it up, and neither did her husband. So she felt it was unfair for her to have to go out and clean up the dog poop in the backyard, but her husband didn't care if there was dog poop in the backyard. So she took this to mean that he didn't care about her and he didn't care about their marriage. He didn't want to contribute to the family and he wasn't an equal partner. She made it mean all sorts of things that caused problems in her marriage. instead of just having dog poop in the backyard. She was so frustrated and aggravated with her husband, and it was a constant source of contention. And it ended up causing a lot more problems than just the dog poop in the backyard. So she would repeatedly nag him about it and ask him to do it, and he didn't want to do it. And sometimes he would do it just to get her off of his back, but it was still a source of contention. But it all came from her manual that she felt like he should clean up the dog poop in the backyard. Anyway, so needless to say, the dog poop was not only in the backyard, it was all over their relationship because it was causing so many problems. So I encouraged Lisa to think about the situation from the point of view of not having a manual for her husband about cleaning up the dog poop. If she wants the backyard clean and doesn't want to have dog poop in the backyard, she could do it herself, or she could have someone else do it. And it really doesn't matter how her husband feels about it. If she could just let go of her idea, her manual for him, that he should care about it as much as she does, and that he should be responsible for cleaning it up, and that means he loves her. All of these things that she made it mean, she could be happy to enjoy her backyard free of dog poop because she took care of it, or she had someone else take care of it. But expecting that her husband should and blaming him for not doing it just caused all sorts of problems in their relationship, when really the problem was the dog poop and her not wanting it there. And once she decided, yeah, he doesn't care about it, I do, I'm going to take care of it, then it wasn't a problem anymore. It wasn't a problem in their relationship. It wasn't a problem for either one of them. And they got to enjoy their backyard and a better relationship. So I want to challenge you to apply this concept in your own life and try to get rid of the manuals that you have for the people in your life. It's such a healthier, happier way to live. So I want you to challenge you to think about throwing away your manuals. Okay. All the instruction books that you have, all the list of shoulds that you have for the people in your life. I want you to try to throw them out and just love and appreciate the people in your life for the good things that they do and the good relationships that you have with them. And I promise they will improve when you give up these manuals and throw them out and don't expect them to do what you think they should do in order for you to be happy with them. I think you're going to find that your life is so much better when you don't have these rule books or manuals for people in your life. And you're going to be a better, happier person to be around, who's genuinely enjoying the moment, enjoying the relationships that you have in your life, rather than having a lot of expectations and consequences for people in your life and emotionally manipulating them and yourself in ways that aren't healthy. So that is my challenge for you guys for this week. I want you to try to throw out your manuals and just let the people in your life be who they are, and you can love and appreciate them for who they are, and recognize when you're applying a manual, and instead of applying it, don't use it. Throw it out the window. Okay. All right. I have a question here. I have about 1 more minute. So someone sent me a question in the Q&A. I want my husband to have dinner ready for me when I get home. Is this a manual? Okay. If you feel like he would have dinner for you if he really loved you, then yes, that's a manual. You can always make a request, like, I'd love it if dinner was ready, but you cannot let your happiness and emotional well-being and your relationship with your husband depend on whether or not he makes dinner for you when you get home. If you like to have a nice dinner when you get home after work, then you need to make sure you have a nice dinner. You can order a food, you can pick it up, you can have it delivered, and then you and your husband just get to enjoy dinner together. And neither one of you have to be upset or angry or um, up, unhappy with each other because of dinner. You actually just get to enjoy your dinner with each other, which is the best thing ever, right? You get to enjoy your time, your relationship with each other without having all of these expectations and requirements from the people in your life. It's such a freer, happier way to live. And I want to invite all of you guys to try that this week and send me your comments and tell me how it goes. If you haven't sent me an email from one of our group calls, I'd love to hear your feedback. You can email me at jen@jenzingmark.com and let me know how it goes. If you're applying any of the things you've learned in our group calls, I'd love to hear about how it's going. So this week, your challenge is to identify some manuals that you're applying in your relationships and stop yourself from applying a manual or an expectation for someone in your life and just try to enjoy them. So tell me how it goes. Thanks so much for tuning in, you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you're learning a lot and bring it to your one-on-one coaching with me. Any questions or if you want to apply this specifically in your life, I'd love to help you with that. So bring that to your one-on-one coaching appointment with me this week. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.